Well, hello. You probably noticed I have a bag. It's a nice Christmas bag with snowmen. You celebrate Christmas. You're lucky. Well, one of the things, I have to tell a little funny story. See the snowman with the carrots? I saw one, there's a photo going around with a grocery store, and it's a bunch of carrots, and it says, packages of snowman noses. I thought that was really funny. But this is a bag, and I want to talk about a bag of beliefs. Because what defines a Unitarian Universalist congregation like other religious congregations is the things we believe. But people hold their beliefs kind of differently. And if you think of a bag and you have all your beliefs, because you remember a couple of weeks ago when we had the Age of All Reason, the children went through their 7 principles. And they were the children's 7 principles. I respect the importance and value of every person, offer fair and kind treatment to everyone. Yes to spiritual growth and learning together. Growing by exploring ideas and finding your truth. Believe in your ideals and voice your vote. Insist on justice, peace, and freedom of all, and value our responsibility in the web of life. So that's kind of some of the beliefs we would put into the bag. But I'm not so much interested in what's in the bag, but how do we hold on to the bag with beliefs? Because some people will have beliefs and they'll hold them really tight and they don't want any new beliefs coming in. Things can happen, but they don't want to change their beliefs, so they hold it really tight. Then other people have their beliefs, and the beliefs might be really nice at being kind and being caring. But if someone else is not kind and caring, they can use their bag as a weapon to hit people. And sometimes we Unitarian Universalists can do that. We can get a little bit opinionated. But then other times, some people maybe just have beliefs that they don't really care about, and they just wander around, and they read something in the internet, and the belief just gets thrown into it. And it's like, it doesn't really matter what they believe. But I really want us to think about our beliefs and being open to them, checking things, like look at these 7 principles that you children are learning, and think, what does that mean to me? What can I put in there? And then if something happens, do these principles, do these beliefs still matter, or do I need to change them? So you kind of want to keep your bag. You don't want it to be completely open where everything falls out, but you don't want to keep it so tight you can't change your mind. Because one of the things we believe as Unitarian Universalists, like if something happens in our experience or science or some new learning happens, we maybe need to change our beliefs, because our beliefs may be out of date. Because we don't want beliefs stuck 2,000 years ago or 50 years ago or 10 years ago. Beliefs can change as society. So I want you to think, when you have your beliefs, you have it open, but you don't allow anything in there. But you don't allow everything in there. So really think of your beliefs as a bag that you carry with you. Because when these beliefs will help you if you have a difficult time at school, a difficult time in your family, these beliefs can really help you. So really think about the beliefs you want and the beliefs that you don't want. That's just as important. So thank you so much for listening. And it's time for your religious education now. So we'll be singing you out. So have fun. And I think the dog's leading the way. So
sometimes, when I'm quiet or not trying too hard, I catch a glimpse, a sense, a feeling I know without actually knowing. And if I don't try to grasp or hold on, it can settle over me like an understanding that isn't in words or things, but just exists. And what that is exactly is a mystery, but it comforts me nonetheless. I have faith in that mystery. I believe in the unknowable. I am not an atheist, nor can I say I believe in a God. However, I do feel that there is more out there than I can see or understand. Like that sound only your dog can hear. There are things beyond my senses, beyond my ability to fully take in and comprehend. I find I am able to settle myself into the discomfort of not knowing, and I am okay with that. Now let me be clear. In my regular life, I am not a big fan of mystery, of the unknown. I am a planner. I like to know what is coming next, to figure it out in advance. I currently know what I am doing for vacation in March, April, May, June, and July. And I don't have a plan for February, and that is a problem. I understand the importance of letting life unfold on its own, of being open to possibility, spontaneity, but I don't like it. And yet, somehow, I am able to sit with a concept of spirit of faith that doesn't have a plan and isn't going anywhere. I am able to find some patience and trust in the mystery of life. I'm not seeking and I'm not attached. If it isn't there, so be it. If it is, that's good too. But I have to admit, I am hoping for the latter. I would like to close with a prayer by Carol Meyer. May we open ourselves ever more fully to that eternal mystery which lures us onward toward life and creativity. May we find the courage to live our faith, to speak our truth, and to strive together for a world where freedom abounds and justice truly does roll down like water. May we know the fullness of love without fear and the serenity of peace without turmoil. May we hold one another in the deep and tender places with compassion, and may we grace one another by sharing our own vulnerabilities, being ever mindful of the divinity within that makes soulmates of us all. Thank you.
Our Unitarian Universalist movement has 6 sources. We often talk about 7 principles, but we actually have these 6 sources. I want to start by talking about the first and the fourth of our sources. And the first source is the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. And our fourth source is humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warns us against the idolatries of the mind and spirit. When you put these 2 things together, it almost seems like the classic conflict between mysticism and science. But we embrace both. So I want to read a story to you. And it's called, coincidentally, The Mystic and the Scientist. One day, a religious man approached the mystic and asked, "Does God exist?" The mystic replied, "Allow me to go within for an answer." After meditating for quite some time, expanding her heart consciousness to embrace the totality of existence, she answered, "I do not know what you mean by the word God, but I do know that this world is more mysterious and more wonderful than I can ever imagine. I know that you and I are part of something so much larger than our own lives. Perhaps this something larger is of what you speak." Then the religious man approached the scientist. "Does God exist?" he asked. "Let me think," the scientist replied. And so she thought. She thought about the vastness of the universe, 156 billion light years, or something like 936 billion trillion miles in diameter. And the almost immeasurable smallness of a quark, that tiny elementary particle. She thought of how energy of the Big Bang fuels the beating of her own heart. And then she answered, I do not know what you mean by the word God, but I do know that this world is more mysterious and more wonderful than I could imagine. I know that you and I are part of something so much larger than our own lives. Perhaps this something larger is what you seek. The religious man then thought to himself, he thought of what he knows and what he does not know. He thought about how he knows and what he knows, and how he knows what he doesn't know. He thought about his experience of the world and how it is but one tiny, infinitesimal fraction of all experience. He thought about his dependence on forces larger than himself. And he thought about the interdependence of all existence. He experienced wonder and pondered mystery. And then he knew in his soul the truth of what the mystic and the scientist said, that he is part of something much larger than his own life. And then only then did he think about what he'd call it. Now, I love that idea that the mystic, the scientist, and the religious person all agree, I do not know what this world, I do know that this world is more mysterious and more wonderful than I could imagine. And I know that you and I are part of something so much larger than our own lives. In every UU Values and History class I lead, and every new member gathering I have, and I've said it from many times in the pulpit, I think, do you believe in the God is the most useless question. Which might be surprising coming from a minister. Maybe not a UU minister, though. Because I don't think you can meaningfully answer that question. If you say no, are you denying love, wonder, and awe? And if you say yes, are you saying the theistic Christian God, the Hindu Brahman? Are you thinking Gaia? Are you thinking this universal consciousness? What are you saying yes to and what are you saying no? And that's why I always go back to the two questions that you've heard me say many times. What do you love and what breaks your heart? What do you love and what breaks your heart? And in that reading by the scientists, I thought back, and invite you to do this as well. Think back to that first time that you ever really wonder about existence. I remember as a young boy, I can't believe I thought this, but I remember one of the first times I really thought about it. I'd watched this program about the universe, and it talked about the universe expanding. I thought, well, that's cool, but when you get to the edge of the universe, what's beyond it? You can see why I did physics as my major. What is beyond the edge of the universe? And I think you wonder these things, these questions that right now for me are unanswerable. And the other big issue for me today, and I think it goes to the very heart of what I consider sacred, is that idea of human consciousness. They say that consciousness and human beings are the universe becoming conscious of itself. Humans are the universe becoming conscious of itself. That's a fascinating idea, and I think there's a mystery to consciousness. We don't really know how it works. And to be honest, I studied it when I was in seminary, and I don't think we've even got a good theory for it. And the retired Unitarian Universalist minister, Marilyn Sewell, says, when we venture into the mystery, we're entering the ground of the infinite with the powers of a finite mind. And off-filled agnosticism is perhaps the better part of wisdom. I love that. We are entering the ground of the infinite with the powers of a finite mind. And I think if we remember that as we explore wonder and awe and mystery, there's a humility that encourages us. And, you know, we Unitarian Universalists, we're not the most humble people. So I think a little humility can go a long way. Because ultimately humility is what leads to wisdom. So I invite you all to take a minute to reflect on what does the transcending mystery are you wrestling with right now? Now, I'm really comfortable with silence, so I'm going to give you a minute to really think about this. What is the transcending mystery are you wrestling with right now? Now, some of you may think, we'll come back to your answers later. And also, this is another one of these worship services that comes with homework. So. But mystery is an important idea. As I mentioned earlier, yeah, it can encourage humility in us, and I think humility is the beginning of most spiritual paths. But there's a power to mystery if we live into it. Now, mystery has this humbling quality of not knowing, and that can be powerful. And humbling moments do not need to be humiliating moments, but often they can be the same thing. Now, I want to tell you a story that comes from the Jewish tradition, it comes from the Christian tradition, it comes from many wisdom traditions. But this is a version from the Christian tradition. And it's about this abbot of the monastery. And this used to be a really lively, exciting monastery for many years. But it started to decline. You know, the numbers started to decline. People weren't sure of their purpose. And then there started to be a lot of niggling and gossip between the various monks in the monastery. And the abbot was good friends with the local rabbi. And he was having lunch with him, and he told the rabbi, he says, I think I'm going to leave. This place is a shambles. There's just no life. There's no spirit. There's not even kindness and, friendship amongst people. And the rabbi listened. He said, really? That's funny. He says, our community looks at your community and thinks you're special. You know there's a Messiah, an anointed one amongst you. And the abbot like, in my community? Are you sure? We're talking about my place down the road? And they said, yeah, the Messiah is amongst you. So the abbot went back and he thought about this. And he looked around and he saw some of his workmates in the kitchen and some of the monks. Thought, these can't be any of them. And it's certainly not me. Said, I struggled to like some of them. He said, maybe so-and-so, he works hard and he's always got a good attitude. And then there's John, who's got this beautiful singing voice. And he started to look around and he looked at each person, he just looked a little bit deeper. He thought, I could see there's someone there, and he started to treat them better. And the monks that in this monastery noticed that, yeah, he's something different about the abbot. So they approached him and said, we notice you're different. Why is it? He said, well, I heard from the rabbi that the Messiah is amongst us. And the monks all thought, us? Are you sure? Are you joking? So but then the monks all started treating each other better, going that extra step to help one another. And the whole life of the monastery grew. It became this vibrant, spirited place again. And I think the powerful thing about that story is it was because of the unknown. No one knew who the Messiah was, so everyone started treating everyone better. It was the mystery that had the power. And I invite us to think about that. What if we look at each one of us and see the divine spark within us? Everyone that wanders through this door, everyone that comes into this building, whether it's for Sunday service or for an AA meeting on a Monday or Wednesday night, if we look at them and think of them as this divine spark and hold them in a center of a meditation of love, which is what we are called to do as Unitarian Universalist people of faith. It's the unknown, it's the mystery that allows us to hold people in such high esteem. And for many religions, faith becomes a restricting thing. You have to believe this way, otherwise you are not a person of faith. But for Unitarian Universalists, it's actually the opposite. We look for an expansion of beliefs. For many in the Christian tradition, faith is believing in the divinity and the teachings of Jesus Christ. But for Unitarian Universalists, I think we put our faith is in the relationship we have with ourselves, with one another, with the environment, and with the divine of our understanding. That's a more expansive idea of faith than many religions. And so let's not think of faith as something restrictive. Let's think of faith as something expansive. Because I think one of the challenges we have as Unitarian Universalists is we're trying to expand the very idea of what religion is. And that's complicated for many people. But we have an expansive faith, not a narrowing faith. And the Zen master in Unitarian Universalist, David Rinnick, says this: in a true encounter with another human being, we come face to face with the mystery of life. In some way, every other person, no matter how well we know them, will remain as mysterious to us as a country across the ocean we only read about in books. In every interaction, whether it is with a stranger or a long-time partner, we can be surprised by what we have not yet or even imagined. I remember one of my essays for entering seminary when I entered Star King School for the Ministry in 2005. I remember saying this, and I still stick by it to some degree. I said, I want to explore and improve the human condition in a holistic and interdisciplinary way, which sounds really great and very earnest. Having been in the ministry for 14, 15 years, I know less about the human condition than I did when I entered seminary. And Socrates always said the true sign of wisdom is knowing what you don't know. I'm becoming really wise. And modest. But the question to ask yourself is, do you spend time treating life as a problem to be solved, a game to be won, a struggle to be survived, or a mystery to be lived into? A mystery to be lived into. Hanukkah, the Jewish holiday, ended on Friday evening. And Hanukkah celebrates the recovery of Jerusalem and the rededication of the temple back in the 2nd century BCE. And it's observed for 8 days and nights, acknowledging the lighting of a lamp with only enough oil for 1 day, but it lasted 8 days. And it was a miracle. The mystery is, why did the candle last for 8 days? Faith is the choice to light that candle, knowing that there was not enough oil. Mystery is what happened. It lasted. Faith is lighting that candle, not believing is going to last, but the action of it. So there is, with faith, there's a hope of stepping into the mystery, not knowing what the outcome will be. So I ask you to reflect on what was the transcending mystery you were thinking about. I'm going to invite you now to think about it and continue in the days, weeks ahead. What hopeless thing do you want to start because you believe it's important? And what mysterious power might help you achieve it? What hopeless thing do you want to start because you believe it's important? And what mysterious power might help you achieve it? Our Unitarian Universalist faith, it's less focused on what we believe, but in how openly we love, and how we manifest that love in the world that can be hard to love at times, perhaps especially at this time. But being part of this Unitarian Universalist community, it's a choice that involves not signing on to a list of beliefs, but rather a promise of engaging our heart, mind, spirit, and body in deeper relationships with ourselves, deeper relationships with one another, and deeper relationships with the mysterious world around us. The humbling power of mystery can enrich our relationships by keeping us open to new learnings and grounded in our lived experience. And our faith challenges us to transform ourselves through our search for meaning, and transform the world around us through acts of love.